I'm gonna take you through a real-time heart butt workout. So I'm gonna do all three, glute maximus, medius, and minimus, here with my hips pressed against the counter. I'm gonna do 10 to 15 reps on each side, but for the sake of this video, I'm gonna use a timer. So it's 35 seconds work and 10-second rest. And I'm gonna take you through that circuit first, and then I'm gonna get on the floor and do hip extensions and the TFL move. So you can follow along. You'll see when the screen turns green, that means work. When it's red, that means rest. So here we go. So I'm stabilizing my hips here against a countertop. Keeps my hips stacked. Make sure you're practicing the wall test posture through these whole exercises. And my leg is tracking against a table to keep it from turning in or out. I'm just squeezing straight back. It's a pretty small movement, and you should feel the burn if you're squeezing and contracting correctly. Make sure to keep your transverse abs contracted at all times. That will also take the tension off of your back. Make sure you're isolating the glutes and not using momentum or swinging your upper body. A timer really helps to not have to focus on counting reps. I'm going to step to the side here and turn my foot out for the glute medius. The glute minimus, I'm going to take a step back and lean over on my forearms. Turn my foot in so that my big toe is touching the inner arch of my foot. Whoops. Don't hit the chair behind you. And just squeeze out. Make sure your abs are contracted. Your pelvis is still stabilized. All you did is push your hips back, but you're not arching or swinging or hunching your back. You're just squeezing your glutes and squeezing your leg backwards. Okay, we're gonna repeat this on the other side. So I have a chair here so that I can still use this table to track my legs out. Oops. Chair is less stable than the counter, but it really helps me to stabilize my hips and make sure they are stacked the whole time and not swinging or rotating. Go ahead and turn this way for the glute medius. So I'm turning my leg out and pushing it back. Feel it squeeze right there. Go step back on my forearms, turn my foot in, big toe is meeting the arch, inner arch of my foot. Core is stabilized, and I'm just pushing back. Make sure your abs are in so you're not cheating. Contract those transverse abs, otherwise referred to as cough muscles. If you cough and feel those transverse abs turn on, that's how you know you are correctly contracting them. Remember not to swing, but to squeeze. Okay, that's set 1. We're going to repeat that now on the left side. I typically do this to music, so definitely feel free to put on your own tunes. Foot out. For me, if I'm not focusing on counting reps, when I use a timer, I can really focus on the squeeze and isolation. Make sure you're not cheating. It's always form over reps. Remember that if you're feeling this in your lower back, you might be swinging or using momentum from your upper body. So you need to really stabilize your core, contract those calf muscles, and you can stabilize yourself in a door frame like Ashley showed in one of the videos. I'll post in the comments, or on your forearms like I'm showing on this counter. Turn this way to use the table. Go to the other side. Glute maximus. It's really helpful to do these and be able to look in the mirror so that you make sure you're not cheating on your form. Really simple body weight exercises can be done pretty much anywhere. You can do this while you're brushing your teeth, while you're cooking, while you're on the phone. Great workout even if all you're using is your body weight. These exercises target all 3 glute muscles, and you should feel this the next day. Glute minimus. So I'm showing these with body weight. For the last set, I'm going to show you how I use a resistance band to increase the intensity. But if you are not able to properly execute these exercises with just body weight, then don't go up in resistance. I've been able to work up to using a cable at the gym or these resistance bands that you can buy online or at any sports store. But I still use relatively light resistance, even though I'm used to lifting with heavy weights and I'm a strong believer in weightlifting for women. This will add some extra intensity. Pause this while I put it on. But if you're not ready for the resistance, the extra intensity could throw off your posture. So don't use it unless you're ready. This is one way to do it. There are different ways. You can put it around your lower legs. You can put it up here. I like to put it around my heel And that way I can just track to the back. So, stabilizing. This is a very light resistance band. I have different levels of intensity, but even this little bit of resistance adds a whole new dimension to these exercises. So that's something to work towards, but you have to make sure that you're ready for resistance. Otherwise, you're basically just gonna put more tension in places that you don't want to feel tension, like your lower back. Out to the side. This is also a great exercise routine for people who travel a lot, who have busy schedules and can't make it to the gym. These at-home bodyweight exercises are no joke. I can honestly say I was weightlifting and exercising faithfully for years trying to grow a booty because flat butt genetics. But these exercises were the biggest game changer. I've seen an increase in size in my booty, extra strength, much better performance and conditioning, and booty shell. So, yes. If you're using resistance and at any time you feel like you can't maintain proper form, then you need to drop the resistance or just go back to using only body weight. Resistance is something you should only work up to once you're ready and once you're able to execute these exercises in perfect form, or as perfect as possible. This way. This chair is not that stable. Last one. Oops, no, glute. Glute medius. Make sure your feet are really planted on the floor and that you're not twisting your foot or putting pressure on the sides of your foot, but your toes should be firmly planted on the floor. Do the well test to make sure that you're practicing proper stabilization. I think a lot of people don't totally get that the wall test is the posture you're supposed to be in all the time for every movement. It's not just a test to see where the tightness and tension is. That's how you're supposed to stand, sit, move, exercise. So make sure you're reinforcing that proper posture. Okay, that's the first set of the glute maximus, minimus, and medius. We're gonna take it to the floor now. Hope I get a good angle here. I have a box set up. This is just a table. Fix this angle. Okay, so there are different ways you can do this. stabilize the box or chair or couch, I like to put my heels up like that. So if you have the hip stability, to do it with one leg up, like Ashley shows. The important thing here, keep your transverse abs contracted so that you're not arching, but you're raising. So this is on and this is squeezed. So it's like, go ahead and put the timer on. So it's like two forces of resistance, ensuring your core is stabilized and that your glutes are contracting. Oops, sorry, do this. Make sure your hips, your two hip bones should be even. Make sure you're not dipping like that or swinging, but you should be able to have a straight line at all times. Switch to the other side now. Do this to make sure I'm not cheating on my form. Check your form, make sure you're not arching your back or hunching or tilting your pelvis. You should feel this in your glute hammy tie-in and in your glute maximus, which is a much needed area of focus. Okay, for the TFL, I'm gonna lie to the side and make sure your pelvis is stacked so you're not rotating in or out. I like to put my hands here for excuse me while I reset my timer. I like to put my hands here to make sure I'm not rolling forward or back so that my hips are stacked. Make sure you're not hunching over, you're not trying to be in the fetal position. You're elongating and you're squeezing right there. I like to add resistance bands for these to feel more of a squeeze, but again, start with body weight, focus on the squeeze. You should basically feel this in your saddlebag area. The TFL, the tensor fascia lata, you can watch Ashley's video where she explains those muscles. Transverse abs should still be contracted. I'll show you the other side. Okay, 10 seconds rest. If you need to take a longer rest, please do so. I like to keep my rest short, but if you need more time to recover, take a longer rest. Timers also help me move really quickly through my exercises. For people with a busy schedule, helps to make sure you get a really effective, quick workout. Remember that at the top of the move, you should have a straight line from your knee to your neck. That's one cue I use to make sure I'm not arching my back or swinging. Doesn't really matter which leg you started with. Started with the wrong one last time, that's okay. If you don't have the range of motion or the hip stability to do this with one leg and with your foot elevated like this on a box or chair or couch, you can do it with both feet on the elevated surface, or you can do this with both feet on the floor so that you can work up to more range of motion. I'll show you that option in the last set. I'll also show you how I do this with resistance bands on the last set. Did about 30 minutes of cardio on my stationary bike before doing this, and I do not look cute. Very sweaty. These exercises should get your heart rate up. They should make you sweat. They should be difficult. You should be feeling the squeeze, even if all you're doing is using body weight. These are no joke. Another thing you can do is lay down like this. Okay, last set, guys. We're almost there. I'm going to pause this so I can show you some options. We're doing the hip raises. If you don't have the stability to do it with a raised surface with one leg, so instead of using one leg, you can do both feet on the surface, or you can also do both feet like this on the floor. So I like to add resistance to make these a little more challenging. Again, if you're not ready for resistance, just use body weight. So I'm going to do one set showing both feet elevated on this box. And then the next set, I'm going to do both feet on the floor just to give you different options. And then I'll use a resistance band for the last set doing the TFL. If you're really hardcore, you can put a resistance band around your calves and also above your knees. Just make sure your knees aren't moving in or out, and that your feet and knees are in alignment like railroad tracks. So you're really squeezing up with your glutes and you're contracting your abs so they're like opposing forces of resistance. Squeeze at the top. You're not just moving up and down, you're stabilizing your core, but you're squeezing up there and you really want to feel the tremble. So I'm going to show you with both feet on the floor now. Same thing, keep your core contracted, squeeze up with your glutes. Press down into the floor with your heels. You want to use as full range motion as you can. So if you think you're up all the way, try to squeeze a little bit more. Keep the core on, but try to squeeze those glutes. You can play around with different positioning. I like to change it up. I do these exercises about 3 times a week. So some days I'll do it with my feet elevated, some days with my feet on the floor, some days with the one leg technique. I'm gonna pause it so I can show you. I use a lighter resistance for the TFL because I don't want it to mess with my core contraction and posture. And I want to still have the range of motion. So again, make sure you are elongated. Oops. Did it again. Okay, make sure you're elongated so that you're not feeling this in your obliques in any way. There shouldn't be any contraction or pulling here. You're just squeezing and feeling it there on the saddlebag area. Keep your core contracted and squeezed in. Again, if you feel like the resistance is messing with your posture or form, drop the resistance and go back to body weight. Stack your pelvis, Stabilize with your hand in the front. Last one. Feel the most squeeze and tension at the top of the movement. Right up here. There should be a slight tremble. That means activation. And that's it. Hope that helps. Want to see how you do your heart exercises? This is one of the routines that I use. It's really made a huge difference. So happy heart, but make sure to check out the blog for the full instructions.